Hello and welcome to Scrapping on the Fly. My name is Kristen and I'm here with my next video on courageously crafting, scrapbooking through the hard stuff. And this is definitely a hard one for me. I am going to be documenting some very special pictures and remembering some pretty rough times. So I've mentioned before that 2018 was a very rough year in my family. Between my father just coming off of having a really bad 2017 was rough on him because he was physically unable to do a lot. He had a bad back and we had no clue what was going on. He couldn't even sit up for most of the time, and it was rough to see the person that I always looked to be the strongest, to be in so much pain, and to see him that way. So if you have ever had a person in your life who has, gone through illness or, and cancer, things like that, dementia, all those kinds of things, it's really hard when you've seen somebody one way and then you have to try and figure out, how to move through this new person. So luckily in towards the end of 2017, he started feeling better to where we could take some short trips. We were luckily able to go and see my grandmother in Texas. That's not a short trip, by the way. A couple of times, which was good because she had just moved there in June and went on like a small fall break here in Kentucky. So luckily by the end of 2017, he was definitely in a better place. So, but then early, in March of 2018, my aunt was killed by a drunk driver. And then 20 days later, my father had a heart attack. So, like I said, rough year. So right now I'm just sharing that I've decided to document something in regards to this. And I'm going to use my beloved 49 and Market Spectrum Sherwood. And I am using the Tidal Wave collection because the coloring in it is going to go best, in my opinion, with what I'm documenting. So I have the papers, and I've got the ephemera, I've got the tags, I have the rub-ons, and then I have these little baubles, which I absolutely love. And there's the rub-ons, and they're great. So, and then I have, like, that's the ephemera stuff that was too big to fit in my little 4x6 little containers. So I have all of that stuff, and I've already picked my papers, and that one paper was one I used for my scrap lift crafternoon a couple weeks ago, and it's the way I cut out the little frames that I used. I had that able to use that to mat my whole layout on, and so I thought, like I said, the greens, the teals were going to be the best match for what I wanted to document. So in 2017, because my dad's back was so down and he had already gone on a trip to Texas in July, when September rolled around, his yearly trip to Canada to go fishing was something he decided that he would wait another year for, because that's a long drive, and obviously it's choppy waters, literally, and being on the boat and on his, sitting up in the boat and everything, it was going to be a little too much for him, and he decided to wait. So him and my brother-in-law and his best friend Jimmy spent the whole year pretty much planning their next year's adventure to Canada, to a fishing site where they pretty much have gone, or at least my dad and some of his people, his friends and stuff, have gone for over 30 years. I think they started going in the late 70s or early 80s. And so I don't think he's ever missed a year. He had to come home early one year because his father, my grandpa, was in the hospital and was not doing well. But other than that, he's gone every year around August, September, usually for like 10 days. And it's something that he looks forward to every year, plans it from the time he comes back to the next year. So it's something super special. And so he had spent a lot of time with his best friend and my brother-in-law making plans for that. So after he died in April, obviously that didn't happen. But because my dad's best friend is amazing. He's like an uncle to me. They've been best friends since the 60s, and we're super, super close. And my brother-in-law and him went to Canada when they were scheduled to go, and took my daddy's ashes and scattered them here in this place right here in this picture. This is my dad's favorite watering spot, or I mean fishing spot, up in Island 10. And so that is what they did with my mother's blessing and absolute gratefulness. They took my dad's ashes. We went through all the, rigmarole to make sure it was okay. And the people that owned the place up there were perfectly thrilled with that. This is the little island right next to the where that waterfall is. And then this stone is a stone that my dad's best friend had made for my dad. And he had two of them made, one to leave here so my mom could have it, and then one to put kind of like a headstone almost in Lady Evelyn, which is where he fishes up in Canada. And so my brother-in-law took these pictures for us, and they are so special to me. And so he also did like a little video, not of the ash scattering, but he walked from the edge of the little island right there over to where the stone is, and showed us where it was. And the quote that I'm using is this one by Jamie Sorello, maybe. And it says, "You will always be in my heart because in there you're still alive." And I love the quote, but what made it even better was this picture that it was on has the fisher person in the boat back in the background, kind of faded out. And I just felt like that was absolutely fitting of these pictures, and it just, like it's almost like that fisherman is on the clouds, and that is exactly what's going on right now. My dad is up there in heaven, and he is fishing with his dad and all those who've gone before him. And so I feel really good about using this quote and using this picture. I am going to cut it down. I will not be cutting down this picture here of the waterfall. It is a special picture. I have it large in a frame. My sister gave that to me and my mom for Christmas. And oddly enough, my mom had this picture made on a canvas for my sister, not for me, because I am the one who helped her create it, like kind of a last minute thing. My sister needed something else for Christmas, and she wanted to get her artwork, and I suggested this, and that was what we did. So now all of us have this amazingly beautiful and special picture of where my dad is. And so anyway, so I am going to use, like I said, the Spectrum Sherbert, and I'm just kind of going through figuring out what I want to do. And there's that paper that I cut some frames, or some little, well, I guess really kind of like frames, because I matted pictures with those on a layout I did a couple weeks ago. And I love that layout. And it just dawned on me just now that that layout is actually documenting the flower arrangements and the wreaths that people sent and that we had made for my dad's funeral. So these pictures, I mean, it was just meant to be, right? So there are two sides to this paper, and I like both of them. I love that text print on this side right here, but I really like the mixed media type on the back. And there is some more text print there too. And so I've decided I'm going to use this side. I'm going to ink the sides of it with black soot on my dauber. Just to give it a little difference, because in the top portion of this background paper, it gets lighter. And so I didn't want that white to disappear into that. So I'm going to use this paper here to map my pictures, or at least this picture. And I decided to do it on this mostly full watercolor side instead of the other side that is a lot of white, because it's going to be on that white paper. So I didn't want to have to ink this. And I thought that blue aqua color was a good fit for these pictures, especially this one of the waterfall. And I adore this picture. It is so beautiful and serene And I totally understand why my dad loved fishing here. I have never been to this specific place, on Island 10, but he absolutely adored it, and it was very special to him. So much so, he's been there so many times that one of the arrangements that I documented was from Island 10. They sent flowers to my dad's funeral. So that gives you a little insight to how much of an impression my dad left on people. So anyway, so I inked around, like I said, the whole outside of the paper, and then I think that's the only thing I ink. I'm going to ink something else here in a little bit, but so I got that quote matted. I cut the top part off because I felt like it was way too much white, and really all I needed was up to the the fisherman in the boat. And I'm going to tuck it like I did, so that all you can see is the quote. There's like a weird quotation mark above that, and maybe it's just to state that it's a quote. I don't know. It was kind of weird. There was only one. There wasn't an ending one, just the beginning. And it was at the top in the middle. Pardon me. My nose is running because, the tears are part of it. And that's okay. So I'm going to use these rub-ons. I have not tacked down the entire picture, just in the middle, so that I could tuck some things if I wanted to. And I do end up using these rub-ons on all four sides. So I use these tealy colored ones on the right and bottom. And then I'm going to use like a green foresty green over on the left. And then a limey green that's more like that background paper up on the top. And I feel like that helps bring in all the different colors that are going to be on this layout with the pictures, as well as the papers I'm using and the embellishments I'm going to bring in. I love these rub-ons. They're so easy to use, and they've got so much texture, or visual texture. There's no texture, obviously, because it's a rub-on. It's flat, but it looks really different and unique, and I like the distress in it, so it doesn't just look uniform. So I'm going through all of these different little tags and ephemera bits, and I'm going to kind of lay them out and figure out what I want to use. I will not make you watch that because there is a ton of ephemera in here. I went a little crazy because the Spectrum Sherbet was such a gorgeous line. As soon as I found where I could get the bits and pieces, I got them. So I am going to use this lime green chipboard that says right here, because it's going to be pointing at that little island, which is where the stone is and everything. And so most of the stuff I've got laying around there I am going to use. I got really excited when I realized that little "with you" was going to fit inside that circle that said always and forever. I felt like that was the perfect thing, and I was really excited that it fit there. It's going to move. Pretty much everything but that right here is going to move. Because I'm trying to just figure out what I want to use, and I'm looking through the baubles because there's some things on there that are fitting, and then there's some things on there that are not. Best day ever? No. No, it was not. This actually, when you all are seeing this on the 17th, I believe that is the day that my dad's ashes were actually laid out in this picture. It was in this time frame because my brother-in-law is back in Canada right now. So every year they get to go, it just feels like they get to go and visit Dad. And I'm so jealous because I haven't been able to go, and that is definitely on my bucket list to make it up there. I'd like to go not in September when it's frigid. So maybe when it's a little warmer, because it's up there pretty far in the north part of Canada, I think. So anyway, so I decided that I wanted to title this Brave and Strong. And I have that little word phrase there in cursive. And I'm going to ink that so it stands out more. And it is going to stay right there. And then I also have this little cluster down here by the picture of the rock, and it says little adventure on it, because it was a little adventure that they went on, and I felt like it was appropriate down there with the stone. And then of course I tucked in the little butterflies. I couldn't make that one more three-dimensional like I do the one on the left and right up towards the top because it's got that little banner over it. And then I put that word my heart because that was definitely fitting. And then, like I said, the brave and strong was very fitting because my dad was definitely brave and strong, as well as my brother-in-law and my dad's best friend who took his ashes up there. That couldn't have been easy. It would have been an absolutely emotional ride for me. Just them going was an emotional enough. So I'm going to add these little, the only bauble I add is this little word loved, and I do move it. I can't remember if I move it before the close-ups or not, but I tuck it in behind the little butterfly down there in that bottom cluster. So if I haven't moved it when I do the close-ups, know that I do. And then I just have that little always and forever with you and the butterfly over there. I don't add any extra mixed media because I feel like this layout's got enough. So I'm going to show you the close-ups. I hope that you all have enjoyed this. I would love to hear your comments below about the layout, or about how you have started thinking about or have started actually documenting, journaling, scrapbooking, the hard stuff. I loved doing this series in July. Not that I had a reason to do them because that was the hard stuff, but I love that I was able to get some of the emotion out and reach out to some people who I know have reached out to me and let me know that it meant a lot to them and that it was getting them thinking about doing that. So I would love to hear from you all below. And I hope you'll come back again. I'll be here in October to do another one. So until then, have a great day and happy scrapping.